thank you. Thank you, Katie, for the invite to talk to this group. It's been scary getting to here, but I'm looking forward to it from here. So one of the things that's going to be key for one of the tools is just having a piece of paper and a pen nearby, just for one of the tools. So if you can have that nearby, that will be handy. So just go through the sort of the intro. So this is, as per the title, it's sort of remote engagement. It's been a challenging time. Okay, I've had to coach a new team and individual members on all the things that are going on in the world at the moment and all the challenges that we're having, and it's tough. So we need a new way to do things. We need to be able to, as leaders, as Scrum Masters, as Agile teams, as just teams of people, we need to be able to engage remotely, and it's tough. There's a lot of things here that we can do better to help with that engagement and really connect. And what I'm drawing from here is basically, I'm old, so nearly 25 years of leadership and technology. And this is inspired, these tools that I'm going to be sharing are inspired by the leaders that I've had that have made a difference to me. Not all my managers are leaders. And this is sort of a bit of a take on how we can change things up. So without further ado, let's get into the intro. I'm hoping, there we go. So what I'd like you to do is just in a moment, I'm going to ask you in chat to, and if you're comfortable, so put in there just your pronouns and what color are you feeling? At the moment, are you green? Things, I'm feeling good. This is cool. Are you yellow? It's not ideal, but I'm not broken. Red, this is tough. This is really tough. So what I'd like you to do, if you're comfortable, is to put into the chat your pronouns and what color you're feeling. And now I need to find chat. Where's chat?
It should be on the bottom toolbar.
Bottom toolbar, where did I go? Is it that? All right. Where's the chat? I want to see that. Is it that one? All right. Why can't I see it?
Oh, it might be because you're presenting.
It's gonna suck.
But the mostly is green and yellow later.
Green and yellow?
Yeah, a couple red.
Couple of red.
Yeah, also green and yellow.
Okay.
And not so many pronouns.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if we need to explain the pronouns thing. I'm not sure. So
the pronouns are just the, how you like to be referred to as he, him, her, she. That's the pronouns piece. The color is the most important piece. Katie, since I can't see it, can you just tell me where you feel like it's got to a slow spot?
It is at a slow spot.
Cool. So now I want to try this again. Hi, I'm Tony Edwards. And I actually care about your answer for this question. I want to know how you're feeling. It's important to me. You're important to me. Would you please just tell me how you're feeling? I want to listen. Now, what I did then is I'm here. And for some of you, your answer might have changed. Think of how many times where people wander past now and we just sort of go, how are you? Good. You? Good. Really? It's really important that we use this, an intro tool like this, and this is a great tool for Scrum Masters to use, say in your daily stand-up, that first connect with the team, just to see how people are at. But the most important thing with this tool is listening. In order for you to feel like you can actually be vulnerable and genuine, you have to know that that's how I am, and I'm interested in hearing you. When we have, as you know, Scrum Masters, Agile teams, families, people, we tend to just sort of go, we're good, it's great, because we're just so used to that. We're so used to people not listening. And we can do better right from the start. We can actually have our team feel comfortable to go, hey, I am red. And I'm not just red, I'm RED, capital red, exclamation, exclamation point, lots of characters. We really do want to know this sort of stuff. And the key thing here is we're not trying to fix it. We're just trying to be engaged and show we care, because that's how we get that vulnerability both ways. That's how we're genuine. That's how we build teams. That's how we build a place where we want to turn up to, even when it's tough. So this is a great tool for those intros. It's very smooth, and you can just ask people, how are you feeling? And if they know this tool, they'll just go, yellow, but I'm okay. And you just be, oh, cool. And they'll go, you? And I'll go, overwhelmed, just have to do a presentation to 1 million people, nervous as heck, but I got this. That vulnerability is the key right from the start of how we can lead teams. And this is the first tool that I wanted to lead with. So let's get rolling into the next stuff. Now, just to sort of set the thing, because time's important, for the approach for this from here, I'm just going to, and I've got a lot to get through. I want to not crank it through, but do it justice and do it good time. So I'm going to ask for you to refrain from questions until the end. I'm happy to answer as many questions that come through, but I'm also really interested to learn from you, because this is my perspective of tools that I think are helpful for teams. And I'm sure there's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge here, and none of these tools are mine. They're all stolen, used, reused, retaped. And this actual first tool was from a session that my company, IHS Market, put on last week, actually 1 week, 5 hours ago, that was about inclusion and diversity in the workplace. This is a really powerful tool. So I encourage you to embrace the first one, and we'll get into it from here. So some background before I flip the side. So in my first leadership role, a very long time ago, my first actual real leader that I felt was a leader for me, was an incredible guy called Barry, amazing guy. And I worked at a company called Sovereign in New Zealand. If you can't tell the accent and you've been thinking Australian, I'm not Australian, mate. They're much different. New Zealand is this sort of accent. So I was working for a company called Sovereign, and we were the largest insurance, investment and mortgage company in New Zealand at the time. Our biggest focus was actually insurance, followed by investments, followed by mortgages. And joined the company, got into it, and then the company transitioned to a values-based organisation. And a values-based organisation is basically those words, fun, integrity, trust, that we see for our companies. It's actually saying, what do they mean? This is what it means for our company. This is the words around it. And you can call out even the CEO if you believe that they aren't showing integrity. And you can just say, hey, values call. Is this an integrity decision? So one of the great things about my first leader, and one of my things about leadership, is that you have to believe in a person, in the team, more than they do. That's what we all want. So my first leader, Barry, made me become a facilitator for rolling out a values-based organisation to 800 plus team members. So since I've done this a few times, I'm going to give you an abridged version, and this is where you're going to need your pen and paper. So welcome to the being and doing model. Being is what you do outside of work. Doing is what you do at work. And there's this natural spot in the middle that you really want to be, which is where the values of what you do and what you bring to the job and what the job needs and the values that they have, if they overlap and they match, those are the days that are easy. You know, it's like, man, it was an awesome day. Really? 9 hours just went past in the blink of an eye? That was so cool. So being in touch with your values and understanding them, especially in these times, is really important, because this is how you fill you up so you can handle the stuff that's happening around us. Being in the middle, being in the zone or in flow is what it feels like. And when you see people in the zone and in flow, the easiest place where you can see this these days is extreme sport athletes. They do stuff that's just, they're in flow. They have to be. It's just so second nature to them, because they don't get a chance to be outside of that, because the consequences are huge. So they need to be in flow. They need to be in the zone. And that's why they're so successful. So what I'm going to do is just quickly walk through a values exercise. And this is a bit strange for me, because the way I'm used to facilitating this is sort of like going, hey, the world's coming to an end, which at the moment sort of feels like a bit of a weird thing to be saying, because this is pretty out there. So what I do want you to do is, so the world is coming to an end, but I've got great news for you. We found a new planet. It's even better than this one, bigger, a little bit more palatial. It's kind of cool. So what I'd like you to do on your piece of paper is write down 10 items that you want to take. Now, here's the deal. Thankfully, they can be any size, because my Western cousins from Australia have built a Shrink Array 9000, and it can shrink anything down and we'll be able to fit it. So if you want to put, well, I'm taking New Zealand, so you can't take that. So if you want to put a country, if you want to put your golf clubs, if you want to put family, if you want to put your library, your music collection, your favorite guitar, your race car, whatever it is, I want you to just take a minute on your piece of paper and write down 10 items that you're taking from here to the new place. And I'm going to give you about a minute to just whip down that list. Gosh, a minute sounds like a lot. Feels like a long time when I haven't got a seconds clock. But I'll give you a bit more space.
This is where we need the Claire with the crickets chat.
Yes. How many crickets chirp in a minute?
There you go. The crickets. You can probably hear them as well as the music in the background that my husband's listening to. Yeah.
There you go. So we've got 10 things. So we'll just sort of sit around in this. And the cool thing about this exercise is after this, I would encourage you to actually do it properly. You can learn a lot from this. So hopefully you've got your 10 things on the list. Now, if you're not aware of it, New Zealand and Australia have a really strong rivalry. And because of that, I would be remiss to point out that Australians absolutely broke the design for this. So this Rank Array 9000 doesn't actually work as good as it was. You can actually only take 5 things. So on your list of 10, cross out 5. Now this is going to feel scratchy because there's social constructs in here. I should take this, or I should do this, or I should do that. This is your list. And I want you to cut it down to 5. And I always find it interesting because, you know, sometimes you can get down to that 5th slot and, you know, hopefully you're not choosing between the family and the golf clubs. I have, you know, but the whole goal is to get down to 5. Now, since it's I'm conscious of time, the rest of it, I'm going to talk you through what you're going to do for your next steps, and you're going to do it sort of in your own time. And it also will give you an opportunity to go back and go, are these really my 10 things? Is this really my 5 things? And then what I want you to do with that list of the 5 items is I want you to put that item on just the name of it. So it could be golf clubs, on a new piece of paper in the middle. And then I want you to write down like a mind map around it. What do golf clubs mean to me? Why is this important to me? It's so important, you're taking it to a whole new planet. It's really important. So what you'll do is you're going to do that for each of the 5 things. You're going to basically mind map on 5 different pieces of paper. What is this thing and what does it mean to me? And then when you've finished that exercise, you take the 5 pieces of paper and you spread them out so you can see them all at the same time. And what will happen is you will see themes, you will see common values will be under the hood. You will see things in there, and you might see photo albums, the vacation house you went to, different things like that, and then you might group that together and you say, well, that for me is love. You can see love on the things, so love is a value. And then now that you've got these, you've gone through, these are the 5 things I'm taking, this is the themes. Now I'm starting to get into what do they mean to me and what's that value that groups it all together. And then comes the fun bit. Now that you've got those words like love, fun, sense of adventure, you write down, what does this mean? What would living this value mean? How would I do it? What would it look like? What would it feel like? And you write it all down. And then you write down what you're doing today towards that value. And there's always a gap. And it's a big gap because you write down, I'm going to call my old high school friends. I'm going to talk to this and that person and do this. And I'm going to be super connected, touch on Facebook. I'm going to do happy birthday to all of my Facebook friends for 1 year, no matter what. And I'm going to include a personal message. So it says, miss you, love you. Whatever it is, there's going to be that big description of how you're living that value. And then you get down to, how am I doing it today? Now you've got a gap and you're off. You've got the base for the beginning of your action plan of how to live your values every day, every moment, as much as you can, because those values are what fills us up so that it makes it a little bit easier to handle crazy situations like where we are at the moment. You will know those things where you've tried something. You know, I was you know, and without permission, but, you know, I have the pleasure of watching my boss, Jeff, talk about his son knocking a baseball, 250, and I'm sure from the son's story, and in a few generations, it's going to be 450 feet into the middle, just dead. And you can just see the joy of a dad and a son. That's filling up his value so that he can handle the bouncy bits. It's really important to do this exercise because this is what's going to give you the resiliency to handle the bumps and also find out where things are at. Some of the observations around this tool, it is about what fills you up, and it's important. Understanding your personal values is important. They do move around too. So I facilitated one of these with who was the head of my HR department. And he had, health was 5 for him. And then his sister-in-law, it didn't turn out well. And it was quick. Health, straight to number 1. And it was like, he was at the gym 5 days a week. He was watching what he was eating, and you just watched him shrink, strong, buff. 5 years later, not so much. Your values do move around. It does sort of say what's going on, and doing. And also, some of them may be for forever values, some of them may be now values, and some of them may be not tomorrow values. The focus is living your values at the moment. And with this exercise, whenever you get that scratchy thing where you're like, I'm just feeling down, this is a great tool to just refresh and look at your old action plan and go, is this right? I know I wanted to be this sort of person and do these sort of things to fill me up, but the time, not sure. It doesn't really work for me. Saying happy birthday to everyone, and then when it was my birthday, I didn't feel I got those personal messages back. There can be all those sort of things, those scratchy things. The most important thing is to keep doing the exercise. Feel free to do it, bring it in, look at what the new value is. Is this doing what I want? It may be that you have a value of creativity and you're just trying to figure out which one it is. I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't do this, but man, I can do that. I can crochet I'm amazing at that. Who knew? And you can feel that value and get that filling up to give you that protection from what's going on. So just keep going with this sort of tool. It's really good. I'm conscious of time, I've got to keep rolling because there's most going to be a few questions. So the next tool comes with controversy, and it's not the tool. It's definitely not the tool. It's what's in the tool. And that's okay. I'm just going to share my perspective, which is different, and I get it. So let's go. So the background to this tool is at IHS Market, our CTO, Bethany Beer, did a presentation last year in Poland. Basically, it's like unleashing innovation. And she's talking about what technology teams are getting into and how do you unleash innovation. And underpinning it is the scientific method. Underpinning the scientific method is experiments, and as part of that is measurement of that experiment. And this is about how you use the information. Think about having that empathy and that connection. You're values-based, you're doing that sort of stuff. That's not somebody that would use data to shame. This is about improving teams and improving and understanding. So what am I showing you right here? So this is a velocity report for a team that I made up. Sprint 8, 7, 6 are before COVID. Sprint 5 is the COVID, you got to all work from home. 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 is the last sprint that they just completed. We can see the total. we're used to calling this velocity. 150, 160, 140. Average velocity, 140. Pretty clear. That's what we should plan. Team takes a big hit, COVID hits, getting all set up. As I said in my abstract, the connectivity dust, how am I going to do this? Where's my office? All that. We've sort of, it took a hit. And we can see the team then post-COVID, post the get home, work for remote, the team's starting to build. And they're actually getting better. So, and they've in 2 sprints after, they're back to their velocity. Looks amazing. Actually, they're improving. This is incredible. I've never hit 170. What? Next sprint, 180? That's amazing. Where did it come from? That's a 20% increase. And that 20% comes from people having a shorter commute. I used to commute 12.5 hours. I now work 12.5 hours more. That's where it comes from, folks. We have to be crystal clear why we're getting the velocity. Because I don't know about you, when I used to go to work, I used to be able to listen to podcasts. I used to be able to have the music on that I liked. I used to be able to get on the phone and chat to someone on the way home. I could check in, I could do all of these things. And the reason why I was doing those things wasn't just management type stuff. I was doing it to fill up. These are my values. I want to talk to my friends. I want to listen to my music. This fills me up. I just had a hard day. I want to be filled up because I got to go home and then I'm at showtime for my family. So this is, just be really careful where that velocity is coming from because it is not sustainable. People will break because they can't fill up. So that's where we got the 20% from, but we need to look at it. Now, there's another story in this, a couple of stories in these metrics. If you look at A, and you look at them pre-COVID, solid average, 23, something like that. I'm not really good at math, but I know this is right. Then look at E. That's a difference, folks. Team is consistent though. So you would say team's doing good, but you might have a hero and you might have someone struggling even before COVID. COVID hits and then that whole team dropped. Look at A. They went down 50%. Funny enough, so did E. But now that we've sort of got through that connectivity thing, A, next sprint, season best, crushed it. That's awesome. What? You did it again and again and again. That's amazing. Look at E. Post-COVID. 28, 30, 30, 29. If you look at the metrics, it's telling you a story. You have a person who is in zone. They are in flow. They're doubling. We've got somebody else, E, who's wilting. This is hard. I'd like to be able to have the data, to have the information, to have a conversation. Metrics used right from a leader with empathy and values grows teams. It's continual improvement with data following the scientific method. It's actually what we're supposed to be doing. The importance of this is look at what happens where it says H. H is the highest for each team member. this team, if they're all in flow at the same time, crushing it, just 195. If they're all not in flow and it's tough and it's just 119. As a Scrum Master, that's a big difference. Your commit, the team commit, could be at 167. In this environment, with this sort of volatility, with this sort of challenges, keeping an eye on this will stop you just going, well, we'll do 180, folks. You just have to be cautious. This is about having the information to have conversations, and it's okay. This is never weaponized. You could easily look at this and just sort of go, well, this is a person on a team, and more importantly, they were an incredible high performer. Let's get with them, let's talk to them, let's understand what makes them in flow, what makes them in the zone, and what can we do? And have it as a team conversation as well later if they feel comfortable. But certainly A is going well, and the three in the middle are hitting averages, they're up 20% as well. It's okay to do experiments that are measured, and it's okay to have statistics that are like this. This is comparing. You could use this to go, hey, developer A, pre-COVID, if they carried on, you're not doing it. No, it's about improving. It's informed things. This is how we can grow teams, and it's okay. And I completely appreciate that it's controversial to be measuring it this way. It's about how we use it. How we use data to improve is what we're about. Weaponizing this sort of stuff is not what we're about. That's not about engagement. That's not about growing our teams. That's not about continual improvement. There's nothing wrong with having this data at all. And for me, it helps me get closer to the individuals in the team. I can now match this with where are they, if E is saying, I'm green, I'm green, I'm green, I'm green, there's a little bit of a disconnect here. We might want to just have a conversation and see what it's about. Using metrics, we can do this. We can lead our teams, and it guides us into how they're really going. So I appreciate that the example is controversial, but you can also use this exact same method to measure how are you living your values. If I've said, if I get to, this is the gap, this is my action plan, and A, B, C, D was my action plan, and I'm tracking on the days how I went, and you can put it in here and you can measure it. It's okay to measure. It's what you do with it. And we're leaders, and leaders wouldn't use this stuff against teams. We grow. And what we want to do is have a conversation about, hey, is there anything A can tell us that everyone else could learn from? And how do we all give E a hug and go, what can we do? Because we can get them back in zone. That's not a problem. So, yeah, I know it's controversial, but I would really encourage you as Scrum Masters, as product owners to, hey, what's the real metrics for the team? And yes, for the team members, because it gives us a story that we might not see. We might go, oh, the team's 20% up. We don't know where it shifted. We sort of get that idea, but looking at the tickets and getting an understanding will actually give you the idea. And what I would do with this is I'd just go, hey, you crushed it. But it would be a private message just to say, good sprints, man. Good sprints. So, yeah, I really encourage you to think about the metrics that you're using for managing your team. And it's okay to take it to that next level and have the conversation with the team. If it's based on being genuine and vulnerable and values based, this is easy. It drives the conversation, it helps the team, we get together and we can do well. So yeah, as I said, I know this is controversial, so and we'll talk more about it in the question and answers. So now I'd like to sort of move on to the next tool that is pretty amazing. Now, it's a messy slide, but I'll talk you through it. And the cool thing about this tool is it came from my newest Scrum Master, who hasn't been a Scrum Master until about 3 months ago. Has worked on Scrum teams, has actually been a QA absolute expert. And I was actually chatting to them just last week, and they said something in our weekly connect, and I went, what do you mean? What is that? What are you doing? And welcome to a sprint journal. Blew me away. So in the gray boxes, as a Scrum Master, is the information I tracked for a team, for a sprint. I basically said, hey, the sprint is pineapple umps, and for those of you that have been to New Zealand, you might know what those are. If not, Google. I've tracked the plan leave. I've got a dev a couple of days out, another dev. I've got, I'm going to take some time out too. Commit, 180, Vista 5.3. Inside the Vista 5.3 is in range for the team agreement. It's not a problem. And then at the end of the sprint, I would go, what was the actual leave? Because I tracked the leave by day, by person, just to check. And then I go, what was the complete and what was the focus factor? What was the, out of the original 180 points, how much did we actually get done? And I'd be happy, and I'd just walk off into retro and be like, cool. Now let's look at the middle and see whether it adds value. So as a Scrum Master, these are my notes about how the sprint is going. It's to keep a journal through it. And a line that I heard a couple of weeks ago that has really resonated with me is the shortest pencil lasts longer than the longest memory. Journaling your own thoughts about how the sprints are going and how the day's gone is how we can then turn it into a tool we can look back at and learn from. So let's talk it through. And I know there's a lot of mess on here, and a lot of it's in my language, so I'll quickly talk it through, and this is me as the Scrum Master. So pre-sprint, I've come out of sprint planning, the team's off to go. Commit concern. Lowest Vista 5 in the last 3 sprints, and plus we have higher than average planned leave. I'm concerned. End of day 1. Welcome to Agile. Welcome to technology. Welcome to what we do. Production issue, 8 points down, straight away, bang. Day 2, okay. Dev B's in flow. That's just, oh, man, they're cruising. These are my, as a Scrum Master, these are my observations. End of day 3, team's on track, no concerns. Stories are moving, the ones we expected. We haven't run into anything where it's like, oh, there's the detail. End of day 4. Oh, here we go. Dev A has got 2 days off. So this is end of day Thursday. So if we're on a Monday cadence, the intention of this is that Dev A is out Friday and Monday. So they're rushing to get their tickets ahead. It's planned, we know what they have to do, but actually that production issue involved them as well. So they're trying to rush. End of day 5, mid-sprint, we're 5 days in. Few stories are not moving as fast as expected. Team has a plan because I'm out of here. I'm taking 2 days off. I want a long weekend. Woohoo, bye. Wednesday, second week. I've had my 2 days off. I've had my 4-day weekend, and welcome to my ethos of every day I take off, I get 2 days of punishment. Chaos. 2 high severity incidents, impact on the team, 10 points. Dev A, unplanned leave. They needed an extra day. Dang, now we're in trouble. And also those tickets that they rushed, dang it, QA bounced them back. Dev B's crushing it though, so let's keep a note. You know, it's not all about the negative, it's always about the positive. Dev B is crushing it. Day 9, Dev C, they cancelled leave because they're behind. And Dev A is back, and they've done their assessment on those 2 tickets that failed, and the impact is 3 points. Last day of the sprint, and the hero moments begin. QA had to cancel leave because all the stuff got late. The team rallied, got around the person, helped them, and we managed to get the commit just under. Focus factor 86%. Okay. End of sprint as a Scrum Master. Here's my notes. We overloaded Dev A right from the start. When the team was working on those high priority, high severity production incidents and they swarmed, they didn't follow the rules around root cause analysis. One of those failed QA tickets from Dev A could have been fixed by anyone. It was actually a really easy fix. And it could have been done on the Friday so that when Dev A came back, they just had the work that they knew. And I need to chat to Dev B. They're in flow. They crushed it. They really crushed it. And they also were able to drag in and help out a lot. A journal for a sprint for anything gives you invaluable information to really understand what's going on. I can't remember what I did yesterday. I can't remember what my team did last week. How am I going to remember what they did 4 sprints ago when we had a similar situation? And if I have these notes in my sprint journal as a Scrum Master or as a product owner, that means I'm going to be informed and I can look back and go, hey, we've had this before. History can teach us a lot if we have the notes to be able to go back and look through it. And it's a pleasure to be able to share. And this is an abridged version of what they put together. This is a brand new Scrum Master 3 months in, and what a tool. I really needed this tool when I was scrumming. And it's an easy thing to do. And it's just being honest and having that reflection period at the end of the day and just saying, where are we at? Because you might look at this and go, actually, when I look back on the end of day 3 where I said on track, no concerns, we already knew that Dev A was behind. So it's a tool that we can use, and I think it's going to be incredibly useful for our teams, for us as Scrum Masters or POs, to even the devs on the team. If they had a journal about how it was going for them, and then they use those journals in retro, I think we're going to get some really good stuff. And that's important because it helps that team get better. So what I've done is I've given you a really fast intro to 4 tools. You've got a tool for that initial connection. How are you feeling? And mean it. You've got a tool for understanding your values, and you can teach that process to anyone. 10 to 5, what do those 5 things mean for you? What are the common themes? This is a value. How do I want to live that value? How am I doing today? What's my action plan? I can do that. Have experiments. Measure it. Look at it. Learn from it. Have a journal so you can see where things are at. You can be honest in a journal. That's why it's so useful. It's, this was good, this was bad. A different way to look at these tools is this. You can show leadership with empathy. You can be a values-based leadership. You can have leadership with continual improvement, and you can have leadership with reflection. I want to work for those people, and I'm proud to say that I do. I'm so lucky. I got dang lucky. These are 4 really powerful tools that you can use for work. They are agnostic to what we are doing. You can use this in life. Hey, how are you going? I care for you. What can I do? How are you filling up? What can I do for you? Let's measure it. We do want to read a book together for half an hour. How did we go with that? How did I feel through the week? What could I do better next week? Really good tools. And this is actually not about remote engagement. This is about engagement. It doesn't matter whether you're remote or not. And it's a different perspective for leaders. You're not Scrum Masters. You're Scrum leaders. And servant leadership. Servant is a quality of leadership. We follow leaders. If you show your team empathy, values, measurement, reflection, you will have an engaged team no matter what's going on. And I'm Tony Edwards. I'm a client delivery leader at IHS Market, and this is dedicated to the leaders who have led me. And I'm happy to answer questions from here. Do I stop sharing now?
Sure.
Okay.
Who has questions for Tony?
I have a question about the slide. You had something SM when about all that notes. What was the SM part? Today SM?
Oh, that is Scrum Master.
Yeah, what that means that?
It meant that they were so it was, now I need to share again, I suppose. So let me go back.
Yeah.
This, apologies. That one. So, and I need to click the other button. Technology is hard these days. So what this was.
SM 2 days, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the planned leave. So Dev A is one of the devs, Dev C is another dev, QA, your QA SME is one, and this is for the Scrum Master. So these are the number of days in the next sprint that we've got planned leave, so our capacity's down. And the SM is just my way of saying Scrum Master.
Yeah, Scrum Master 2 days, that doesn't be in the things. That means that?
That means that I'm going to take in the period of the sprint, which is 2 weeks, I'm taking 2 days off. So I'm not
okay.
I'm not going to be
It is
here.
like a capacity, okay. Like
Yeah.
a capacity planning, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So this is which team members are taking what leave within the sprint.
Yeah, and Dev B is in flow, what that means?
So this means that my observations is of the team in action through the sprint.
Okay.
That person it's been going really well for them.
Oh, okay.
They've got a great, inflow in the zone. It's a way of describing when you're doing something that you love, and then you look up and you go, wow.
Yeah.
That feeling of being in the zone. So by saying, in my language here, I'm saying they're in flow, things are just working for them really well.
That developer is going through the tickets fast.
Yeah, they're going through it and they've got a great attitude. Things seem to be working really well with them. I want to check in and find out what their juice is. Maybe they've figured out that, how are they doing it? And I also want to celebrate with them and just say, hey, I did observe that you crushed it.
Yeah.
So that's what that means.
Okay, it means that yeah, have it a point of conversation. Yeah.
Hey, Tony, I have a question. This is
Sure.
Jill.
Hi, Jill.
I love this idea. I love it a lot. And I'm just wondering about visibility of this diary. Who in your mind should have visibility into this, or is it just really kind of a personal tool for yourself to, like, for example, when you're speaking with leadership, right, and stakeholders about whether you met the sprint goal or not?
Great
Is
question,
this
Jill.
something that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
be able to see and others, or?
I think it's for me. You could do it two ways. You could sort of have it as even if you do a checkpoint with the team each day and you just record it. This is really the journaling exercise of really just saying how you feel. Now, you might not share, you might not go into the detail of this really scary bad, but the journal doesn't have to be made. These are your notes. This is, and the gray boxes would be the ones that that's just normally how we talk about it. The differences in the middle is just, how do I feel as the Scrum Master? What are the notes that I'm taking of how the team's done? What's my end of day? If I did a retro, where are they at? You don't have to share it, but it does, it helps guide the conversations.
Okay.
Because, that's the intention of it. You could easily turn it into a team you could run an experiment and say, hey, let's do everyone drop a chat in this spot to just say how the day ended for you. And then you'd be able to look at, as a team, we saw it as, this is day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. You could easily do that. You can run experiments around it. You can do it yourself. There's lots of approaches for it. And I get the question around the transparency. If I was to look at these comments, I would be quite happy to share that with the team, because I would be sharing that with the team anyway. When it got to retro, I'd already have my observations, and I'd just be going, sorry, we stacked you too high. I know some of you didn't take leave, and what can we do? How do we, let's have a look at the data. So that's how I've been, I'd be using this tool.
I could see this being really useful too, because I have to talk to the team when we're looking at metrics. Like, you can't really remember, not everybody remembers what happened 2, 3, 4 sprints ago, but every sprint tells a story. And when you're circling back to look at metrics and maybe even identifying the sprints that are outliers, this would be helpful to identify that and have that conversation point about, wow, this one thing happened this sprint and that affected things. So let's talk about that. And do we want to keep this sprint in as a capture of, was the velocity impacted huge? And do we not want to consider that sprint when we're talking about looking at our average?
Yeah, for sure.
Another way to use a similar idea is the timeline retro, and to look back on your sprint together as a team and do a timeline of what do people remember significant events during the sprint, and it helps talk through it right after the sprint ends at your retro.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Tony, there is a question that was in chat from
sure.
Jeremy McGuire. What is the focus 155 metric?
Focus 155
I think
metric.
that's in your journal.
Oh, right. So, good question. So, focus or focus factor. So the intention of this is that the team makes the commit at the end of sprint planning. That's their commit. So and this team is committed to 180 points. And then when you take out the impact and you add in that they worked on the 2 tickets that were the Sev2s that are 10 points, the balance is that as a velocity for the team, they did 165. But 10 of those points were dealing with the Sev2s. And focus factor is just a way that to keep an eye on that. Hey, are we actually getting through what we expect? And if you have a team that is working on multiple clients and multiple projects, you know, being able to track it lower, the velocity down to almost like an initiative velocity. Your focus factor is the piece that's key, because you can't plan on 165. You have to be using that focus factor of what is our focus factor on the initiative that we're actually doing. And that's just a way of you know, highlighting tickets might have moved. You know, another way you could look at it is yeah, we had 180, but we shipped tickets in and out. We swapped a few. So still, the whole point is that the team made a commitment on the 180. How did we do against that original 180? Because the 165 is a misnomer. It's not real. It's not based on what you plan to do. It's got extra stuff in it. So the focus or focus factor is trying to capture the measurement of, out of all of the stuff that the commitment is covering, of that commitment, what did we achieve versus what didn't we achieve, and that can be a different number than the team's velocity. I hope that answers your question. I'm trying to think, is Jeremy Maguire, is that the Tom Cruise baseball movie?
It's close.
That's what I almost said when I was trying to say his name.
Yeah.
And I corrected myself. I was like, no, Jeremy.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad. You probably get that a lot.
So does that help describe it for you, Jeremy?
Yeah, loved it. No, that was a great explanation. I just wasn't sure what that meant, but I think I'll parrot this back to you just to make sure I understood. It's really just trying to capture the points that were completed, that were part of your initial commitment and what you guys were focused on. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And that difference can catch you out. And especially like if that 180 is, say that's 3 projects, you know, you think about it's just being able to really capture that focus factor of 155, and then you can even get the next step, which is how was it across those 3 projects, and maybe one project actually went further behind than the others. And the importance of keeping that metrics is that you can keep an eye on it, because the 165 is it will fog it, and what will happen is that you will end up about a few sprints down the road, and now you're going to be going, we need an extra half a sprint, or we need an extra sprint, or we need buffers, or we need to have conversations. So this is just about really getting that tracking of the detail of what did we said this, we did this, and this is actually, where did the 25 points, how are we going to catch that up? That's the importance of it. Other questions?
Yeah, Tony, Rohini here.
Hi.
So so the journal looked very interesting, and also I'm just thinking of an idea of having a heat map which actually shows what are the pain points during the sprints. For example, if the QA had an overload at the end of the sprint, or having the virtual machine, or some tools not getting connected, or virtual machine issue, or it could be a cross dependency. So if we try to have these sprints having a heat map, so on an average of 2 to 3 sprints, we would get to know what is our main pain point as a team.
Yeah.
So I thought that would also be an interesting for the journal to be added.
Yeah, for sure. Great idea. And it's a way of translating this into a visual. and also building the bigger, being able to show a bigger team picture. So yeah, great idea. The most important thing with the journal is, getting that regular, how are we going? Because asking 10 days later, you might forget. And it might have been really frustrating to you for about 2 hours and it's not frustrating anymore. So that's why being able to have the journal and the heat map idea is a great idea, Rahini.
Yeah, I really like that, because I cannot remember, especially if you have, some of us have more than one team, and there's no way I can remember what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
For multiple teams. So that's really good. Yeah.
I think I do a journal light version, if you will, in that my metric spreadsheet, I have a notes column to kind of write some of the big items that happened.
Yep.
That's cool.
I was, it's one of those moments as a leader of other leaders. I was just so wrapped, it's like this, and it's one of those weird things, you think about it, it's writing a journal for just how you're going through something, that you can then come back and do that retrospective. You can get that, what's going on, what are my thoughts. I'm stoked. And it's
and like you said earlier, it's the same thing in life. Right? I mean, writing in my journal almost, on a daily basis it really makes a difference when you do versus when you don't. So that's
and that's a big part of this, is trying to, these are tools that we can use with our teams, individually, with our friends, our family. We can plug everything into this sort of approach. And this is what works for me. If this is what my leader is doing and bringing to the party, they're bringing genuine, authentic connection. They are asking me about what I value and how am I going, and I believe them. And then we're looking at metrics of how we're going, and I'm also journaling how it's actually really going, and we're able to have really good conversations and figure out experiments and changes and what we're trying to do. And yeah, I'm incredibly blessed to be able to turn up to, this is the second values-based company that I've worked for, and it shows. And we can all do this. We can all be this sort of leader, and it's actually easier because it's just real, it's just authentic, and it works. So yeah, thank you. I'm stoked that there's lots of questions and lots of thought around how you can use the tools, and being able to use it outside of work and that sort of stuff for your being. Yeah, love it. Soak that up. Any other thoughts? I'm conscious of time. We're going to be bang on if I do this right.
You're going to be right on time.
Cool. Well, I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you some tools that I've learnt, that I see, that I'm coaching my leaders to be able to use. I hope you find them valuable. And yeah, we win. Leaders win, and we can do this. So on that note, to Scrum leaders and other leaders, thank you.